music fade, lights to show, go. Here comes the VOG.
Please welcome the President of the United States Conference of Mayors, Columbus, Ohio, Mayor Andrew Ginther.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to see you all. What a great night of events. Mayor Castor continues to hit it out of the park. I hope you all got some rest and are ready for a great new day here in Tampa at our annual meeting. Welcome to the Mayors and Business Leaders Plenary Session. In addition to serving as president of the Conference of Mayors, I took the responsibility of chairing the Mayor's Business Council. I know how important the private sector is to success of America's cities in general, and this organization specifically. And I hope that my leadership has reflected my deep appreciation for all that you do. Let me take this opportunity to thank the over 130 members of the Business Council for your commitment to our organization. This conference looks forward to continuing our commitment to work with the business community to promote the public-private partnerships that strengthen the economy in cities and in America. I want to welcome our new Business Council members listed on the screen who have joined us since our winter meeting in Washington, D.C. this past January. If the new Business Councils would please stand so we can recognize you. I also want to recognize the 21 companies that have supported the Mayor's Business Council for more than 15 years. Would you please stand so we can recognize your support? There are 10 Business Council members that are Platinum Partners. We appreciate their strong support of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. For all our Platinum sponsors, Platinum Partners, please stand and be recognized. Thank you. Thank you for your support. Copies of the 2025 Mayor's Business Council Best Practice Report are on your tables. A copy will be mailed to over 1,400 mayors nationwide to each Business Council member and will be available on usmayors.org in the next couple of weeks. I want to thank you for all the members that participated. Elections for the 2025-2026 Mayor's Business Council Steering Committee were held earlier this year. I would like to congratulate the newly elected co-chairs, Dr. Deborah Henson with Aikens Relias. She will serve from July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2027. I also want to congratulate the 5 newly elected steering committee members. Kristen Mattern with Google, J.R. Starrett with Grubhub, Victoria Johnson with HDR, April Capone with the National Apartment Association, and David Guilford with Sidewalk Infrastructure Partners. Now, I would like to invite outgoing co-chair Quentin Lacewell, Vice President of Government Relations and External Affairs at Wells Fargo, to join me for a special presentation and some brief remarks. Quentin and I'm pleased to present this plaque to you for your outstanding service from June 2023 to June 2025 as Business Council Steering Committee co-chair. Quentin, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much. Right here, very good. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Ginther, and good morning, everyone. I come on a simple assignment this morning, and that is to simply express 2 small but yet impactful words: Thank you. I come saying thank you, mayors, for always allowing me to have a seat at the table. This is not a new journey. This journey began when I was 12 years old, when I was afforded a seat at the table, when my hometown council member, who was vying to be the mayor of my hometown, the city of Newark, New Jersey, Mayor Cory Booker, would have me as the youngest person a part of his exploratory committee at 12 years old. You continued to allow me a seat at the table. It didn't stop there. It was serving in the administration of Mayor Kasim Reed, who literally gave me a seat at the table to help me to transition where I am today. It was that seat at the table that allowed me to meet with Mr. Otis Rowley, who would eventually go on to become the president of the Wells Fargo Foundation. Thank you to Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, who allowed me a seat at the table to serve her administration, and Mayor Muriel Bowser, who literally gave me a seat at the table to serve in her absence. You didn't stop there. It's mayors like Mayor Reed, who's given me a seat at the table and spoken my name in rooms I was not in. Thank you to Mayor Steve Benjamin, who's been an advocate. Thank you, all of you, those great mayors who are a member of the world's greatest fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, for your constant support, brotherhood, and fellowship. And because you allowed me a seat at the table, I can afford others a seat at the table. With that being said, thank you to the incoming co-chairs, Bree and Deborah. Let's give it up for them. For the seats you will allow people to have at the table with your leadership and your advocacy. I'm rooting for you. I'm excited about your future, as I know you would take this organization to higher heights. I am grateful, and I would be an ingrate if I did not acknowledge the presence of my Wells Fargo colleagues who've been overly supportive, unwavering, and standing with me side by side on this journey. Thank you for the opportunity to serve.
Thank you, Quentin, and just so grateful for your service and all that you've given. And thanks to the steering committee for their continued leadership. Our next guest currently serves as Senior Vice President of Corporate Affairs for Mars Pet Nutrition North America. She leads the enterprise communication strategy, and with her corporate affairs team, focuses on corporate and brand reputation, fostering strong relationships and effective communication channels for all the business's key stakeholders. Please join me in welcoming Lisa Campbell to the stage. Lisa?
I would encourage every mayor, every city council person, consider that for your city because it makes a difference.
It resonates when you provide a great quality of life. And bottom line, providing a great quality of life is also including your pets.
Who doesn't love a video with pets to start the morning? Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lisa Hackett Campbell, Senior Vice President of Corporate Affairs at Mars Pet Nutrition North America, and I'm truly honored to be here with you all this morning. I'd like to thank President Ginther, host Mayor Jane Castor, and CEO Tom Cochran. And I'd also like to express our heartfelt gratitude to the U.S. Conference of Mayors and to each of you for your partnership since 2018. Your leadership has been at the heart of Better Cities for Pets, and together we've made meaningful progress in creating cities across the U.S. that are more pet-friendly, more inclusive, and more welcoming. At Mars, we believe that pets make our world better, and that's why our purpose is a better world for pets, a world where they're happy, healthy, and welcome. And that starts with supporting the communities where pets and their people live, play, and thrive together. We launched the Better Cities for Pets program back in 2017 in partnership with forward-thinking cities like our hometown of Franklin and Nashville, Tennessee, and right around the corner here in St. Petersburg. With your help, we started what started as a bold idea grew into a nationwide effort, and now nearly 200 cities have been certified as pet-friendly. With your support, we've awarded over $2 million in grants and donations. And as part of the program, we've created free tools and resources to support local planning and for shelters, parks, housing, public spaces, and businesses. And we're especially proud of some of the incredible leadership we've seen from cities like DC with its community cat program, Fort Wayne's education around pet body language and dog bite prevention, and Phoenix, Reno, and Spokane's efforts to help people experiencing homelessness care for their pets. And these are just a few examples of how mayors across the country are bringing innovative, compassionate solutions to life. And now we're taking these U.S. learnings to the global stage with the foundation that's been built through our partnerships with you, the U.S. mayors. We're expanding the Better Cities for Pets program around the world. Just this month, we announced a partnership with C40 cities, aiming to increase access to green, pet-friendly spaces for 10 million people and pets by 2030. And we're starting with cities like Los Angeles, London, Sao Paulo, Bangkok, and Bengaluru. And we're doing it with the launch of a new urban nature playbook designed to help city leaders create inclusive, sustainable spaces for people, pets, and the planet. So to every mayor and city represented here today, thank you. Your passion, creativity, and partnership are what has made this program possible, and it's what's taking it forward to the next chapter. So please stop by and visit us. We're right outside. We'll be the ones who not only have the dogs on the video, but we've got therapy dogs here from Project Pup in the Tampa Bay area. And we'd love to hear what you're working on. We'd love to share our resources. We have them that are tailored to your city's needs, and we'd love to continue to build pet-welcoming communities together. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, for your continued partnership. So excited about the great work Mars is doing with mayors and cities across the country. Each March, thousands of innovators and creatives descend upon Austin for South by Southwest, a conference and festival that showcases the best in film, music, and technology. Since 2016, the Conference of Mayors has partnered with the City of Austin and South by Southwest to host the Civic I/O Mayors Summit, where mayors can attend South by Southwest and experience a special curated summit while also getting to experience the larger conference and festival. This is a great experience. I did it this spring. To tell us a little more about Civic I/O and why you should consider attending in March of 2026, let's welcome the great mayor of Austin, Texas, Kirk Watson.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President, and good morning, everybody. Let me start off by telling you that in Austin, Texas, for decades now, the #1 bumper sticker and T-shirt has not been what it ought to be. Kirk Watson for Austin Mayor. Instead, the #1 bumper sticker in Austin, Texas, the #1 T-shirt in Austin, Texas has been Keep Austin weird. Now, I'll admit, I've told a few people from time to time that was meant to say keep Austin wired, but autocorrect just screws up everything, right? But Keep Austin Weird is actually a moniker that we embrace because what it means to me and to so many people is keep Austin open to new thinking, new ideas, new people, creative and innovative things that are going on. And that is South by Southwest. South by Southwest Conference and Festivals has become now not just something about music in Austin, Texas, but it's grown into such a way that there's now South by Southwest London, South by Southwest Sydney. In 2024, let me just tell you that there were over 510,000 participants in the South by Southwest Conference. You had diverse tracks of thought and things that you could watch and listen to people. There were over 3,800 speakers, over 1,700 sessions. And then, of course, you have festivals like the Music Festival, where there were over 1,200 acts on 65 stages, and film and comedy. And South by Southwest EDU had over 1,100 speakers. Part of the great thing is now for 10 years, and that's important. Next year will be the 10th anniversary of the U.S. Conference of Mayors participating in South by Southwest through what we call Civic I.O. And I'm very happy about all that. I want you to write down right now or put down in some way March 11th through 15th, 2026. March 11th through 15th, 2026 is when the U.S. Conference of Mayors Civic I.O. will be held as part in partnership with South by Southwest and the city of Austin. As Mayor Ginther just said, this is an opportunity for creators, leaders, entrepreneurs, provocative thinkers, all sorts of people, including those that are weird, and some of you know who I'm talking about, to come and be a part of this. It uses the opening of South by to make a special deal for mayors. There's specialized content that's unique for you to be a part of South by Southwest. You can also participate in panels, be a part of what is actually going on. It allows you to be exposed to a lot of great thinking, to a lot of technology, to a lot of the new, unique, creative, and weird things that might be going on, not just in Austin, Texas, but in the world. But importantly, it's also an opportunity for all of us to have a blast and have a lot of fun. So I want to personally invite all of you to Austin, Texas, March 11th through the 15th, 2026, in Austin, Texas, for the U.S. Conference of Mayors Civic I.O. program in partnership with South by Southwest and the city of Austin. I look forward to seeing you then. Take care. Thank you all.
Civic I.O. is our Mayor's Summit at South by Southwest that the U.S. Conference of Mayors does in partnership with South by Southwest and the city of Austin. Every March, we bring 15 to 20 mayors out to Austin to infuse with entrepreneurs, innovators, technologists, futurists, and creatives to really explore how we can improve the lives of people in our cities.
Our big focus is the housing crisis, and we were able to share some great ideas and learn from folks here about some new ways that we can innovate and disrupt in a space that is ripe for disruption, and that is how do we get more housing units online in our communities and around our country working together.
We heard from futurecasters. We heard from folks who are using AI to do all kinds of things. Really spurs your imagination as to how you can apply that in the city. And that's why it's just been an invaluable experience for me.
We work with the Civic Foresight Project to really explore how mayors should be stretching their muscles, thinking about what the future could look like, what their role is, and how they can be better leaders in their cities. And that's just something that we can only get at a place like South by Southwest.
Technology and innovation are very, very important to the United States Conference of Mayors, and it really all started here. This is our 9th year coming to Austin, Texas.
We're so grateful for the leadership of Mayor Kurt Watson and the entire South by Southwest team who really helped bring us together and really celebrate the mayors coming to Austin each March.
South by Southwest can be a very overwhelming experience if you've never been before. So it's really nice to have the U.S. Conference of Mayors help you navigate the whole thing so that you can get the most out of your time when you're here.
So mayors, mark your calendars for next March. It's a great experience in a great American city. Thank you, Mayor Watson. Today, we pause to recognize and honor the mayors who have completed their service in leadership roles at the U.S. Conference of Mayors. These individuals have dedicated their time, energy, and vision not only to their own cities, but to strengthening cities across America. Through collaboration, advocacy, and tireless commitment, they have helped shape national policy, elevated local voices, and reminded us all in the power of local leadership. To our outgoing leaders, thank you for your service, your partnership, and your unwavering belief in the promise of our cities. Your impact will continue to guide this organization and inspire those who follow in your footsteps. Please join me in honoring USCM past President Mayor Francis Suarez of Miami and USCM trustee Mayor LaToya Cantrell of New Orleans. Sure. No, I'll get you. A rose between two thorns. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it. The best of the best. Thank you, Francis and LaToya, for all that you've done for me and this conference in America's cities. Our host mayor, Jane Castor, has done a fantastic job highlighting her wonderful city. Wouldn't you give it up? So Mayor Richardson, that bar has been raised. And I know that our next speaker will be a tremendous host for our 94th annual meeting. Please join me in welcoming Long Beach Mayor Rex Richardson.
I'm Mayor Rex Richardson, and welcome to the city of Long Beach, a dynamic international city with our own coastal vibe. And we're proud to welcome the United States Conference of Mayors 94th annual meeting here to the city of Long Beach. We call it the LBC. Come see, where companies like Vast Space, Rocket Lab, and Relativity Space are launching the future. We're leading in aerospace, clean technology, and advanced manufacturing. And the Port of Long Beach, second busiest in the United States, powers global trade and climate leadership. We're a city of champions, Billie Jean King, Tony Gwynn. Long Beach Poly has sent more athletes to the NFL than any high school in America. And we are home to NCAA men's volleyball national champions at Long Beach State. Artists like Snoop Dogg, Jenny Rivera, Sublime, and Vince Staples gave voice to a generation. And we know how to throw a party, from Cali Vibes, Day Trip, and the iconic Vans Warped Tour, the Acura Grand Prix, second largest street race in North America. If it moves culture, it moves through Long Beach. In 2028, Long Beach takes the global stage, hosting 11 Olympic events, beach volleyball, rowing, sailing, and a third of all Paralympic competition. No city outside of Los Angeles plays a bigger role. We have rooftop bars, world-class dining, museums, and the world-famous Aquarium of the Pacific. Long Beach is a vibe. It's all walkable, all connected, and all happening here. And we're conveniently located in Southern California. Just a short ride to the north, visit Mayor Bass in Hollywood, or 20 minutes to the south, visit Disneyland with Anaheim Mayor Aiken. What makes Long Beach truly special is our people. Cambodia Town, Little Manila on the west side, a mosaic of cultures, artists, and creators, all shaping our future together.
Bienvenidos.
Somswakum.
Maligayang pagdating.
To all the mayors joining us in 2026, welcome to the city of Long Beach. It's a city of champions and trailblazers, innovators and creators. It's the LBC. Come and see. Good morning, mayors. My name is Rex Richardson. I'm proud to serve as the mayor of the great city of Long Beach, California. Let's hear from Mayor Castor and Mayor Ginther. Thank you for your incredible leadership in hosting this year's conference. Tampa has been phenomenal, full of hospitality and warmth. Of course, a little flow rider. You've definitely set the bar high. Next year, for the first time in more than a decade, U.S. Conference of Mayors returns to California. And this time, we're taking it to the beach. We'll welcome you to Long Beach. It's a city built on grit, on heart, on hustle. We're a proud working town, home to the second busiest seaport in the country. We're Space Beach, the nation's fastest growing hub for aerospace innovation with companies like VAST, Rocket Lab, Relativity Space, redefining what's possible. We're a cultural capital, the birthplace of West Coast punk rock and hip hop, where every street has its own soundtrack. And we're a flagship venue for the 2028 Los Angeles Olympic and Paralympic Games, set to host 18 events along our stunning waterfront. There's powerful momentum building in Long Beach, and next year, we're bringing that energy to you. I know the demands on mayors are heavy. You carry the weight of cities every single day. You deserve a space to reflect, to recharge, and connect with those who understand it best, your fellow mayors. That's what Long Beach will offer. This will be more than a conference, it'll be an experience, thoughtfully designed for mayors. The baton is being passed and we're ready to carry it full speed. So mark your calendars. In 2026, we'll see you in Long Beach, where the future meets the beach. To get you excited, we just saw a video to show you what's in the video, right? So we look forward to welcoming you for summertime in the LBC. Thank you.
As we celebrate our cities and our successes during this annual meeting, we must include a discussion of what mayors working with their police chiefs and their communities have done over the last few years. Pretty transformational and significant. The way that violent crime and homicides are plummeting in cities across this country. The results of their efforts are paying off and have been demonstrated by FBI, Major Cities Chiefs Association, other reports on violent crime statistics in cities. The most recent report we've seen comes from Major City Chiefs, and it is the May edition of its Violent Crime Survey. It shows that homicides declined by 20% across 68 cities during the first quarter of 2025, compared with the same period in 2024. Rape was down 14%, robbery 20%, aggravated assault 11% in the survey cities. In that survey, the cities of our three top officers did especially well in homicide reductions, which were 33% in Columbus, 35% in Oklahoma City, and 36% in San Diego. And so did the cities whose mayors are joining me in this discussion this morning. Homicides were reduced by 43% in Fresno, 27% in Newark, and 20% here in Tampa. So let's get right to it. And I'm excited to have Newark, New Jersey Mayor Russ Baraka, Tampa Mayor Jane Castor, and Fresno Mayor Jerry Dyer. First, mayors, let's talk a bit about the one or two initiatives that you believe contributed most significantly to this huge reduction in violent crime and homicides in your city. Mayor Baraka, let's start with you.
Thank you. I would also add, in the past decade, we saw a 61% reduction in homicides in the city of Newark. And I think it's for two reasons. One, we've created an ecosystem of community violence intervention organizations through our Office of Violence Prevention and Brick City Peace Collective, where we join with Rutgers University, University of Medicine and Dentistry of the city, and the community violence organizations that help us tackle hotspots in the city and begin to put resources and services and conflict resolution and trauma-informed care in those communities. And they've been working incredibly well with our law enforcement. And then I would say, secondly, our police department has focused more on intelligence-based policing more than anything else, and not this broad net that they throw out, which helps to create a better relationship with the community, but at the same time target high-level offenders at the same time. I think the relationship between both of those initiatives have helped us reduce crime consistently in the city.
Mayor Castor, what's working here in Tampa?
Well, I have to take you back to 2003. We were right up there with one of the highest crime rates in the nation. And so we changed the way that we police here in the city of Tampa and have reduced crime by over 80% since then in all categories, part 1, part 2. And if you want, take a look at tampa.gov/police and look at Focus on 4. We really focused on 4 crimes that, one, happened in large enough numbers and lent themselves to investigation. And what happened is, not only did we bring crime down in those categories, like burglary, residential and vehicle, aggravated assault, and robberies, that also had that ripple effect on all other crimes as well. And we also put our resources out into our substations. So every substation had its own police department. An incredible sense of urgency, no such thing as a small crime, but really it's the relationship with the community that will help your cities become safer. And I also agree that there are a few what we like to call the dot makers, those individuals that are committing the majority of the crime out in your community. And so that's what we focus on in a very surgical manner, so that the rest of the community has that trust in law enforcement and they will cooperate with the police department. And that is critically important. One of the things that we look at, I think, is just as important, if not more important than your homicide rate, is your aggravated assault, because those are the individuals that tried to kill somebody but weren't successful. Right. And so focusing on those categories is very important as well. But having that community support and then making sure that your police department, organizational change is the most difficult thing you'll ever go through. And the two groups that have the resistance on that change are firefighters and police officers. Really only 2 things that they don't want or don't like, and that's the way things are in change. And so changing your police department is very difficult, but there are proven tactics out there, and I can tell you with 100% certainty, if you ask any of the officers around here, they have an incredible relationship with our community, and their job satisfaction has risen so much because they're making a difference in this city. And we're one of the safest cities our size in the nation because of that collaboration.
Yeah. Just should mention, before going to Mayor Dyer, how incredibly valuable it has been to have 2 former police chiefs now serving as mayors in their community. Think about that just for a second. To go from being police chief to mayor in the last 10 or 20 years, it speaks to the incredible leadership of Jane and Jerry, and such an invaluable perspective and set of eyes and experiences you can lend to this conference.
But really, Jerry and I were talking backstage, like, why don't we get involved in the cool stuff? Like, the tourism and the fun stuff. They always want us to talk about law enforcement.
Gardening, something.
Something.
Jerry, you're doing some great work in Fresno, but you were a police officer 40 years? How many years as chief?
For 18 as police chief, yeah.
So you've been at this a while, but some great things happening in Fresno. Tell us a little bit about what's working.
Yeah, thank you. I get a lot of tread on these tires that have been burnt off. So, you know, I did, Andy, want to just touch on how dramatic that decrease has been, because what we saw in 2020 and 2021 was something historic in terms of violent crime increases. I can tell you in Fresno, the number of shootings doubled. We were up to 732 shootings in 2020. We went to 74 murders. And as you fast forward to 2025, those numbers have been dramatically dropped to over the first 6 months. We went from 74 murders, we have 10 this year, and we went from 732 shootings, this year we have 75.
Wow.
So that's the reduction, and I think that's what we need to look at as those raw numbers. But in terms of what drove our violent crime problem, and still does to some degree today, is our gangs. We have about 20,000 gang members in Fresno that have been very active for many years. And I'd like to think that today we have a handle on those, and part of it has to do with the proactive policing that our officers are doing. They feel very, very supported by the administration and by the chief to go out and make the traffic stops that you need to take away the anonymity of criminals that are roaming through your streets, oftentimes armed with firearms, looking for their next drive-by shooting. The other thing is we focus very much on clearance rates on homicides as well as shootings. If you can solve a homicide quickly, a shooting quickly, you can prevent the next retaliatory type shootings. Been a big focus on that, and utilizing technology. NIBIN, where you can trace the ballistics from shell casings that you receive on or that you locate on scene. The gunshot detection has been very, very effective for us in our community. We have about 14 square miles covered with gunshot detection. Cell phone forensics, when you retrieve a cell phone from a gang member, be able to do the forensics and connect the dots there is very important. And I'd say the last thing is sometimes we overlook the prevention side of violence disruptors, and we have a number of those. We have 9 of them in our community, people that we pay, former gang members that go out, and they intervene. When a shooting occurs, they're the ones at the on scene, they're at the hospital, they're at the funeral. They're calming the emotions and preventing that next shooting from occurring. So I think collectively all of those things together have allowed us to see the dramatic decreases in shootings and murders in our city.
I think this is another great example. I would say the U.S. Conference of Mayors rejects false choices. And so many of us in cities across the country 5 years ago were hearing, you support the police, or you support reform. And we have clearly rejected that. We can do both.
Yeah, we can.
We can fully fund our police. We can have the police work more closely with the community, and we can demand reform, accountability, and transparency. And I think your cities definitely reflect that. Talk a little bit about how the federal government could support your efforts locally. What else could we be asking the federal government specifically for to fund this historic drop in violent crime? Mayor Baraka?
Well, I would say as soon as this administration took office, they closed the Office of Violence Prevention, which I think it was a mistake, and they took hundreds of millions of dollars away from CVI organizations, community violence intervention organizations. This work has been professionalized now throughout the country. You have people going to training. We have the hospitals, the universities involved, giving us key data. They identify hotspots in the city. They begin to treat crime like public health. And we begin to send resources to those communities to prevent crime from happening in the first place, or retaliatory violence and hospital-based violence intervention programs. And as was said, Mayor Dyer said, sending credible messengers into the community as well. But it's more than just credible messengers. We talk about trauma-informed care. We talk about employing people in the summertime, giving help to people's parents, their families, helping communities stabilize themselves. That money taken away from that is a problem, especially at a time when this work is becoming more professionalized and more widespread, not through just in Newark, but throughout the country at the same time. So we need a commitment to community violence intervention organizations and alternative forms of policing at the same time. We have social workers in every precinct in the city of Newark, and lockup as well, and in the youth detention facility. All of that stuff helps us over and over again to stop a kid who, at 14 years old, who was committing robbery, stop him from committing homicide. by the time he turns 18, 19. So that work is incredibly important, and we need that.
Mayor Castor?
Yeah. Well, a couple of things that specific programs, like Jerry mentioned, NIBIN, if your police department isn't involved in that, the bullet casings, the bullets themselves and the casings are the equivalent of a fingerprint for a gun. And so being able to trace that and put it into a database has been incredible. We solved the homicide of a 15-year-old girl that was shot in the head and dumped in the middle of the street, and all we had was one shell casing. And it took a while to get it back to the gun that had been used in another crime, and then we were able to connect it to that. So without that NIBIN database, that homicide would have gone unsolved. And one of the things that I would ask of the government, federal government, is to provide more of those types of technologies. One of the issues that I had, and I'm sure Jerry will agree during my law enforcement career, is that the federal government would provide funding for a lot of technologies and other solutions, but instead of doing that and everybody trying their own, pilot a small portion and then provide that information to law enforcement nationwide instead of, they just didn't want to identify this product as being the one to use. And I think that that would be very, very helpful. And also to continue, well, one is to take the handcuffs off of ATF. ATF is incredibly restrained in what they can and can't do. And they could do so much more with firearms, illegal firearms in our country. But we have great relationships, I know in my community, at the local, state, and federal level. And everybody brings different skill, different experience, and different assets to criminal investigations. And so being able to have those types of task forces has been incredibly meaningful. Something that you don't think about on a local level, you can get a search warrant written and signed by a judge in a matter of hours in an emergency. At the federal level, it would take them a month to do it.
Wow.
And so those are the kinds of things that, they're very important, those relationships. And I hope they don't go away, and I hope that they continue to be fostered.
Jerry Fresno, what else could be the federal government be doing to help or get out of the way with respect to your work in Fresno?
Yeah, much to what Jane said, really at the line level, there's an incredible cooperative relationship that occurs between local law enforcement and federal officials, whether it's FBI or ATF. And so I think we're having a lot of success locally with our federal partners, including the U.S. Attorney. I would say that for the United States Attorney's Office to be very focused on prosecuting those crimes that impact us in our neighborhoods, human trafficking, gangs, any type of gun crimes. The amount of time that serious criminals are getting in the federal system versus the local system is a strong deterrent, especially when they do 80% of their time in the federal system. And then I think the funding, making sure that we don't lose the funding that is so important to us for innovative technologies, as well as funding some of our what's called T3s or wiretaps. There are gang members out there that operate anonymously behind the scenes. They're the ones directing shootings. They're the ones involved in the human trafficking. You may never see them. And the only way to really get to those who are referred to as the untouchables is through a wiretap of being able to monitor their cell phone calls to each other, in many cases to be able to head off the next shooting because they're given direction. But to be able to fund those operations are very, very expensive in terms of overtime. And then I think the last thing is making sure clear direction is given to the federal agencies of focusing on those crimes that are important to us locally. Making sure FBI, ATF, as Jane said, is given the permission and the direction to work with local law enforcement to be able to go after those crimes in our communities.
And I would add one more. If in your community, you have the opportunity to be involved with a U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force. That is from your region. They bring in detectives, and there's local, state, and then clearly federal involved in that. And they go after the absolute worst of the worst, most violent individuals in your community. And they are highly trained, equipped with the best to keep them safe and to keep the community safe as well. And it's been an incredible success in the Tampa Bay area.
Yeah, definitely a force multiplier.
I would also add that, you know, what we try to do to make sure we work with our federal partners is we assign officers to each of those departments, right, to ATF, DEA, FBI. We have officers assigned there, which keeps them focused on Newark and some of our high-level crimes at the same time, and allows us to work well with our partners. And intelligence-based policing, as you were saying, is right on the money. NIBIN, we have the forensics lab right in Newark. We have that stuff right there. So our partners get to use our resources in the city of Newark. So we have a better relationship with them because they use our resources at the same time.
That's great.
Yeah, I would like to add to what Mayor Baraka said about the funding some of these CBOs and organizations that really prevent violent crime and all crime from occurring in the first place. I know this year there's already been our violence disruptors, their organization lost $1 million of funding. Right. And so right away they turned to local government to make up that gap. And so it has an impact on our general funds locally. And really those programs have been proven to be so successful. So I would just encourage the federal government to continue to focus on those prevention and intervention programs.
So we've got about 11 minutes left, and there are a couple of areas that I've heard from mayors, even this weekend, but certainly last couple of months, I'd love your perspectives on. So I'm calling an audible here. Recruitment, working with prosecutors and judges to make sure that there's a focus on gun crimes and treating gun crimes, crimes committed with guns differently. And then how do we better communicate this story, particularly with a press that is obsessed with, you know, I used to say if it bleeds, it leads. Yeah. That's been on steroids since the pandemic. And then nationally, voices, including one in the White House that has deemed our cities to be dangerous and violent places, when all the statistics and facts tell a very different story. So I know I just threw a lot at you, but give some thoughts on what's worked with judges and prosecutors, because that's been a real challenge for us in doing some course correction since 2020 on that. How are you doing on recruitment, and how do we better tell this story? And maybe I'll start with you, Jerry, and work our way back.
Well, I'll start with recruitment, Andy, because that is I think when you look at what allows our departments, police departments, to prevent crime, solve crime, respond more timely, you have to have resources. And if you're carrying a lot of vacancies, I know in our city, back in 2020, there was a decline in terms of interest, who wanted to be in signing up for law enforcement. And we also saw a number of officers that made a decision to retire early because of what was occurring. And so we saw significant vacancies in our department. So we had to, number one, what we have to do is we have to make police officers heroes again. We need, you know, firefighters are heroes, right, every day of the week. But our police officers, it's very cyclical, right? If you have an incident that occurs across the country, our officers locally get painted with that brush, and it's demoralizing. So, you know, we offer a take-home car program for our police officers within a particular area of our city. We also, you know, we have bus wraps, we have billboards with our police officers on there, very active on social media, sharing some of the positive stories that police officers are involved in. And I'm proud to say that we have a significant waiting list right now of cadets that want to be police officers.
That's great.
So, you know, overcoming that, but we need to make our cops the heroes again.
I would say with the court system, one of the things that we did way back when I was a chief is that each of their state attorneys here in Florida, each of our state attorneys' caseloads are untenable. There's no way they can handle those. So we started weekly meetings with the state attorney staff and telling them, these are the people that matter to us. And whatever you do with the other cases, we don't care, but these are the ones that matter. And it may not be the most violent crime in that stack, but it may be the person that's committing the majority of the crime, and we got them for a burglary. So, prosecute that to its fullest. And that's a win-win for the state attorney. It's a win-win for us as well. As far as firearms are concerned, I kind of joke, we're in Florida, like if you cross the Florida line and you don't have a gun, we'll give you one. So, as a country, we've just really lost our minds with firearms. And the idea of the Second Amendment, I always tell everybody, read the Third Amendment, and find out why they created the Second Amendment. It wasn't so everybody could own their AR-15, their own AR-15. But that is something that, one of the ways that we approach that, I started a firearms squad when I was actually a captain in Intel. And that's amazing too, when you start an investigation from the gun and go out, it's not that everybody has a gun. There are a certain number of guns that are traded around, which makes NIBIN even more valuable to us. But one of the things that we did was kind of separate things, like for example, in narcotics investigation, don't ever put your firearms squads with narcotics. If you separate those in certain neighborhoods that sometimes derive the funding, the support from the sale of narcotics, it's like it's okay, we'll just ignore it. But firearms, if you can communicate that those bullets don't have names on them, and your child could be killed by that, and call us when somebody has a gun, there's a gun in some kid's room, call us and let us know so we can get that off of the street. So that's been one of the ways for us. The NIBIN program has just been an absolute godsend. We haven't had issues with recruiting. We have been very, very fortunate in our city, and we have a lot. We have a lot of history. I say nothing says your organization is a great organization than their children are coming in to be sworn in as police officers, and we have a lot of those legacies. But you have to be very intentional about recruiting too. You can't just put up a poster. I mean, things now, we're using social media, we're using all of these ways that young people communicate these days. That's what we're using to bring people in, and we've been very successful with that and very, very fortunate. We used to have about every 100 applicants, we would hire 3 or 4 officers out of 100 applicants. So it's competitive for a reason. You have to have the right person that's out there. They have the ability to take somebody's life. And so one of the things I would say is never, ever, ever reduce or water down your standards, because you will pay for it on the other end. Make sure you are hiring the best and the brightest in your community. And take advantage of the different IECP, major city chiefs. There's a lot of great information out there that you and your police chief can avail yourselves to for crime reduction, for having switch the ability to have other officers come to our department. We have that all the time here in the city of Tampa, and we send our officers to other cities to find out what's working as well. So those would be my suggestions.
Yeah. Well, we haven't had any issues with recruitment either. I think mostly we target specific communities, especially who have not been sending people to the police department, or we have not gone to get those communities. Sometimes because of bias, we go in those communities very deliberately and intentionally to begin to recruit from a very young age to get people to join the police department. We've talked to the state civil service, and we're able to create a pathway for Newark residents only to go to bypass some of the civil service requirements, in terms of all of the paperwork and the fund and the money. So we actually help fund some Newark residents to become police officers, buying their equipment, buying their uniforms, paying for the academy, which helps us get more officers. And I think what I said earlier helps us around the gun violence. We have officers in the prosecutor's office, right? When our officers are in there, they advocate for the city of Newark, especially for folks that we take off the street that we think are important to keep in jail. The prosecutor's office begins to work with that. And then when we use the federal government, when federal government charges people with gun crimes, it sticks and they stay immediately and longer.
Yeah.
So we do that and we have our officers there. So the officers in the federal government also working with the officers in the prosecutor's office, kind of identify and select individuals who we know are going to be a problem out on the street. And we begin to put pressure on them so they begin to get charged, that we keep them in there, at least for a longer period of time so we can begin to reduce the violence that's going on in our neighborhood, especially retaliatory violence that we think is going to take place if you let somebody out in the street, that you'll get another shooting or 2 or 3 more shootings because that person is out in the street. So cooperation with our law enforcement and with the prosecutor's office has helped us tremendously around prosecuting gun crimes.
And Andy, I want to add a couple of other, if your police department doesn't have these now, citizens academies and then youth academies as well, bringing in high school kids and, to your point, getting them interested in law enforcement by exposing them to what actually happens. Because in a lot of communities, they're used to the police just coming in and taking people out. And so when they find out that they can actually make a difference in their neighborhood and that police work is mostly social work, it becomes more attractive. So that's a good long-term recruiting tool, but it also just exposes young people to law enforcement and what really happens there. And citizens academies are great. You create cheerleaders for your department. And another great event that we host, our officers are 4 on 4 off, and they have to do 2 days roll calls out in the community. And so we have what we call front porch roll calls, and a neighborhood watch or just a neighborhood can call and say, hey, we'd like to have a roll call. So all the officers that work that area come to that neighborhood, to somebody's front porch, to a convenience store, someplace, and they have a neighborhood roll call. So it's sort of a forced introduction and communication between the officers and the community. And I think everybody at the Tampa Police Department, maybe even including the janitorial staff, all have city-owned cell phones. But that's important too, because instead of calling 911, the neighborhood can call their officer and get that immediate response. And again, attacking crime with a sense of urgency is at the core of reducing your crime rate and making your city safe.
Wow. Well, this is a great panel. Thank you all for what you're doing. We got to continue to tell the story, folks. I mean, we're looking at potentially a 50-year low of violent crime and homicides in cities across America. That message is not getting out there. That is part of our job and will continue to be a priority. But thanks for your leadership in your cities, and appreciate everything you're doing to keep it.
Thank you, Andy.
Major American cities shows homicides are down 13% during the first 6 months of 2024 compared to the same time in 2020.
The city of Detroit saw significant decreases in violent crime over the past year.
Homicides are down 57% in Denver so far this year, a significant drop from last year and one of the largest drops in violent crime in the country.
Baltimore has less violence today than we had in 50 years. Most of the city council wasn't alive then, and neither was I.
Violent crime in Chicago is down 11%, homicides down 40%, and shootings are down 56%.
Crime is down nearly 16% in the capital city, that according to Montgomery Mayor Stephen Reed.
LA Mayor Karen Bass today released new numbers showing a drop in violent crime across LA.
Violent crime is down significantly in Louisville, and tonight the mayor is crediting the partnership with state and federal agencies for the progress.
Well, we know that there was an unprecedented jump in crime after the pandemic. But what you've seen in cities, especially over the last year or so,
There's dramatic declines in violence and homicides, and our city is down by over a third. We've got one of the highest closure rates because of the great work of the Columbus Division of Police, their close relationship and working relationship with the community. We're getting more tips and information from the community to help us reduce violent crime.
Our city is making strides to reduce violent crime and reduce homicides in a way like never before. We are certainly deploying an all-of-government approach to make Cleveland one of the safest big cities in the country.
We continue to support our police department and help others feel comfortable and safe with them, while we also work with our community partners. We're helping to really try to reduce youth violence. We're working on a group violence intervention program.
We're starting to deal with people at a local level in a much more transparent and honest level. And when you do that, the trust between the community and the local officials increases tremendously.
The city of Phoenix is generally seeing a decline in crime. We're down in really important areas such as homicides. We have just been working very hard and used federal dollars to invest in safer communities.
I can think of where we were in 2020 and 2021 with the George Floyd murder, the social unrest, the pandemic. We saw violent crime, like many cities, skyrocket. Fortunately, we've been able to reduce those numbers. Our homicides have gone down now by about 60% during that time, and our shootings have gone down by over 70%. So we're making remarkable progress.
No one should be living in the fear of gunshots or gun violence.
We won't be done until no one is losing their lives in a violent crime, but we have made enormous progress. That can help us build momentum, celebrate our success, and deliver more.
Folks need to know the facts, but they also need to feel like the city and cities across the country are heading in the right direction. And I think certainly it's incumbent upon us to tell that story and to share and educate the public about the great work that's being done by our police departments and the community in cities across the country. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce a mayor who brings energy, vision, dedication, and humor to his community and our conference. Under his leadership, Arlington continues to thrive as a hub for sports, entertainment, and business. And it is now the home of the magnificent new Medal of Honor Museum. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to our friend, our colleague, one of our trustees, Mayor Jim Ross.
Well, thank you, President Ginther. Congratulations on a wonderful conference, man. What a way to wrap up a year here. Listen, folks, we stand at a pivotal moment in our country's history. We are in need of leadership that is visionary and strong, more than we've ever been before. So I'm proud to announce a partnership with the U.S. Conference of Mayors and the National Medal of Honor Museum Griffin Institute to create the first only Mayor's Symposium that's going to be kicking off in Arlington at the Medal of Honor Museum next year. And to tell you a little bit about that Mayor's program, I want to introduce a good friend of mine who's the executive director of the Griffin Institute, a retired commander in the United States Navy, Mr. Tony Brock.
Thank you, Mayor. Certainly as veterans, both Mayor Ross and I are proud and feel privileged to be part of this National Medal of Honor Museum, which is located in Arlington, Texas, opened in March of this year, and it's our most recent national museum here in the United States. 100,000 square feet. And the picture that you see above you, the top piece is not the roof of the museum, that is the museum. 31,000 square feet that lays out the biographical stories of the men and women who have served and earned this nation's highest award. And then I'll certainly make a plug for all our visitors as well, that in the 70,000 feet below that, you have conference spaces, classrooms, and a theater as well. I have to underscore this important fact, and why it's such a special project is that for the more than 40 million people who have served in our nation's military, fewer than 4,000 have earned this nation's highest award for valor, a Medal of Honor which was initially enacted by President Lincoln in 1861 at a time when our nation needed it most. I would offer to you that we're living in turbulent times today, and these are perfect opportunities to bring people together again for civil discourse and communication and opportunities to work together. What I love about the museum most and the Griffin Institute is that it really pushes past the military story and past the American story and gets into these core human values. Things like courage and sacrifice, commitment, integrity, and of course citizenship and patriotism. And I'm feeling so much of that this week when I come together with the mayors and in this framework that the U.S. Conference of Mayors have provided for us. So we'll leave you with this thought that the world doesn't just need leaders, it needs leaders of character. These type of opportunities, yeah, thank you. These opportunities that we're here right now, thanks to the U.S. Conference of Mayors, to bring leaders together from around the country and have discussions about important topics is really what we're all about. And so we're so excited to be able to provide a leadership symposium specifically for mayors and bring those who are in our cities across the nation, leading with character every single day, to Arlington, Texas, have you gather, men and women, Republican and Democrat, and let's give you the space to talk about some of these important issues and to get re-dipped into the values that you're already living. I'll give you a quick video to show you some of the programming that we're doing, not only in Texas, but around the country with our other corporate partners.
Being in the leadership roles, your time is always compressing. The deadlines are always coming, and there's never enough time in the day to get things done. As leaders, we always look for places where I can expand that a little bit. Where can I get myself just a little bit more time?
You gotta just commit. It's gonna be hard. It's taking time away, personally, professionally, but it is so incredibly worth it.
Where in your life are you wrestling with fear?
If you wanna grow, you gotta commit.
When people align their values and actions, they unleash their best possible selves.
The world doesn't just need leaders, it needs leaders of character.
With every disappointment, with every breach, you can actually emerge stronger.
Everyone's a leader. One way or another, you're either leading down or you're an absentee leader, or you're leading people up and you're lifting them up to their highest self.
Leadership is largely about who you are while you do what you do.
When the testable moment comes, will you be ready?
Folks, we have an opportunity to transform lives in communities at a time they need it more than ever. We hope to see all of y'all in Arlington on April 16th of next year for our inaugural Mayor's Symposium at the National Medal of Honor Museum. Thank y'all. We love you.
Thank you for attending. We stand adjourned.